Hello game devs and welcome to Intro to Game Design. DMD 2500 is an online asynchronous course and we're going to go over the syllabus today in this video, so stay tuned. Let's go over the syllabus. In the top here we have the description, so if you didn't know what this course was about, we're going to make a video game. We're going to introduce you to the world of video game development and kind of expose you to a little bit of everything within the projects that you're going to be doing. I'm also going to be giving you a lot of video games to play as your assigned reading, and we're going to get to that later, and we'll take a look at the list. However, I'm not expecting you to finish every single game as well, just FYI. So what we want to do is create a prototype. The game that we're going to be making is something that's going to be maybe 3 minutes long, maybe 10 minutes long, depending on the game format and the style of what you're doing. Not something enormous, but something that will get an idea across, and it's kind of the first steps that all video games take when they're being created for the first time. So we are going to have a couple required course readings, as I mentioned. There are a couple paid games. Now, these games will also be available in the DMD lab, the VR lab, as much as I can off my Steam account. These games are going to be available to you if you can come by the DMD VR lab and check out some time. You can talk to Michael Toomey in the media cage for that, but also come talk to me as well if you need access to lab space. I know that this is an online course, but many of you are going to be here on campus, so there's oftentimes opportunities to take advantage of things here. So the games you're going to need to buy are The Longing, Undertale, The Stanley Parable, World of Goo, Dream Daddy, Weird Worlds, Return to Infinite Space, and Her Story. There's also a bunch of free games for you to download, so you can do that at any time. The Sky, we've got Super Hot, Dwarf Fortress, Tower of Goo, Zork, Papers, Please, and the Super Hot and Papers, Please, those two games, obviously they have full versions, but you can play the demo and that should get you what you need in terms of what this project, or in terms of what our discussions are going to be about. These required course readings are going to be discussed in an online pen pal format. So, you don't necessarily have to write like a letter as you would, but I want you to have a conversation that is approximately, several responses and about 3 paragraphs long. I'm not a stickler for length as long as it is a fruitful discussion, and you have been randomly assigned a pen pal as well. And also, some people ask me like, oh, well, what if my pen pal isn't responding? How do I submit the assignment? Well, have this discussion with someone, and that is fine as long as you can record the discussion, and also please clue me in as to who this person is, and, hopefully they have also played the game. So this kind of one caveat is they're going to need to play the game. So if it is your mom or your dad or brother, sister, whatever, just as long as they play the game for the assigned time. You can also do this as, like a podcast or a format or something of that nature. And in fact, for the graduate students that are taking this class as a graduate level Masters of Fine Arts course, you will be in a group and you will all be discussing the game together. So you can choose whichever format you like. If you'd like to write a paper, that's fine. But also if you would like to get together and talk about the game for an hour and do like an hour podcast, that would be also terrific. As long as it is discussing the medium and something that like I can digest afterwards so I can grade the assignment. So we should go through the required course technology. There is a lot in this list. Don't worry too much about everything. I've separated it into what you must have and then what I recommend that you have. Some of you have access to these as DMD students, like Adobe Premiere or Illustrator or whatever. If you do not, there is also different versions of free software out there as well. Ask me for more free versions. There's also right in the syllabus, the counterparts. So like Photoshop and GIMP, those are equal. But required course technology, you're going to have to use a 3-button mouse. So two buttons and a scroll wheel that clicks. I think the Apple Magic Mice, they also do that. And speaking of Apple, you're going to also want to install Boot Camp if you haven't already. PC side is much more reliable for game development, and there's different things that you can do. If you're unclear as to how to do that through the step-by-step process that Apple has on its own webpage about how to do Boot Camp, you can also go to UITS, and they will do it for you here on campus, or walk you through that if you're remote. Benefits of using the PC side are the software that we're using is going to be supported equally. Sometimes just things go a little weird on the Mac side. It is possible to develop. Just realize that I don't have a Mac, so I'm not going to be able to experience exactly the thing that you're experiencing, and there might need to be a little bit more communication if you run into errors. So I highly, highly recommend that you use Boot Camp. You need headphones, you need webcam so that we can chat. We're going to be doing most of that chat over Microsoft Teams. There's also a need for that for a couple of the assignments that we'll talk about in a bit. The software that you must have, there's the Corgi engine. We're going to provide that to you. We have a license for that. There's also a couple other things like the FPS all-in-one plugin. GitHub Desktop or another Git client. If you don't know what that is, it's in the setting up your development environment. I discussed that a lot more, so you can go to that video next. And Microsoft Teams, as well as Unity. Now, please download the Unity version that is in the syllabus, which for me is 2020.3.16F1. It is in there. It is not the latest version. Don't update to the latest version. We all need to be on the same one so that we can transfer files and also use the VR lab computer as part of this. As far as software that you might want to get, Glitch is a Creative Commons asset, art asset package. There's also Audacity, Logic Pro, or Adobe Audition. For Audacity, do not download the latest one. I also have a link in the syllabus. Discord is also very valuable. We are working off Microsoft Teams, as I mentioned, but Discord is valuable for discussing video games. There's also the Unity Discord, Reddit Game Dev Discord, the IGDA Unity Discord, and the More Mountains Discord, which is the Corgi engine set of people. So there's a lot of places for you to go get information and also to ask questions if you're having trouble or running into bugs. There are, Photoshop, Illustrator, a 3D package if you're going to work in 3D. It depends on what it is that you specifically want. And then there's also the GitHub Student Developer Pack, which has a lot of useful tools in there. Maybe that is something you want to check out. Anyway, let's move on. By the way, you can buy a lot of stuff on the softwareyukon.edu catalog, so check that out, and that's also where you can get Windows for, I believe it's $1 or $10 or something. It's quite inexpensive for students. In this course, I'm going to be challenging you to create a game and respond to a request for proposal. So this models the video game industry a lot. Sometimes there would be a company and they would say, hey, we have this product. Give us a prototype and a game design document, a small document that describes what the full vision would be, but then also give us something to play with. Something that's maybe 5 to 10 minutes long, maybe it's kludged together a little bit. However, it works and it's interesting and it kind of demonstrates the purpose of, or the core hook of the game. So whatever it is that's really interesting. So like for Spider-Man, that's swinging around, but then that's also saying funny quips, right? Like that's his thing. He has this like sass talk that he does. So, maybe that's actually an element you want to add. In this case, what we're going to do is we're going to have you create a game based off of a 1925 public domain property. There's a couple reasons for this. One is it's kind of hard to blue sky everything. And you can read more about this in the request for proposal assignment. And there is one other change for this year, which might be different if you've heard about this class or if you've seen this class before. You're going to have an opportunity to work on one of 3 projects. The first project you can do is a side scroller as your final project. The second game type that you can do is a first-person game. The third type is a VR game. Now, if you want to do a VR game, we have the lab and we have several headsets out to check out from our department. So you can utilize those if you're on campus. If you're not on campus, you will have to provide your own headset. Also, I'll be working mostly in the HTC Vive. However, there are other equivalents. So if you're like looking to buy or what it is that you want to buy, that's the one I have most experience with. And right now I'm learning like OpenXR, but there's less documentation and it's a little bit in beta still. But that is the final project. So don't worry about it too much. I just wanted to describe what it is, and there's a lot more information in there, and we'll get to that throughout the semester. From here on down, we can see on the left-hand side, we have week. In the middle, we have multimedia. And on the right, we have assignments. This should match up mostly to the modules up in Husky CT, the learning management system, lms.uconn.edu. So there's almost all the videos are the same. There's a couple extra ones on Husky CT specifically that are private videos. And what I want you to do each week is read through everything that is in the multimedia section. And or watch the video, look through the slides, and each week you're also going to have a couple discussions. Now, not every week is going to be 2, sometimes it'll be 1. This first one that we're going to have is jobs in the game industry, so that's going to be one of our discussion assignments. You're going to want to also, look through how to critique and questions in critique, and thinking about that, responding to assignments through your pen pals and then submitting them on Husky CT. The right-hand column is assignments. It's where we're going to have you click through for assignments. I have details for undergraduate assignments and graduate assignments in the same section. You will see graduate requirements are more. And, for honors students, if you're interested in kind of tackling a little bit more or seeing what it is that, some of your peers are doing at different levels of education, then that is a great way to kind of engage with that. So graduate students are required to do all that in the graduate section. And there's also parts of the rubric which are also broken out for graduates only. And as we go through this, I'm not going to discuss every single video, but what I would like you to take a look at is around week 5, it starts to break up. So the way that we're going to have this class this year, we're going to give you the opportunity to do one of 2 tutorials. This tutorial is to kind of allow you to poke around at everything at once, allow you to experiment a little bit, and then also build up a skill set to create the basis for the game that you're going to make afterwards. You can have the Corgi 2D engine, which I have a bunch of custom tutorials, as well as the developer also has tutorials and documentation. There's also the FPS micro game, which has a bunch of tutorials online as well. And there is a specific framework I'm having you go through that you can check through the syllabus and Husky CT. It's just choosing a set of these tutorials because there are a lot of them. You don't necessarily have to do every single one. And for the midterm assignment, which is handing in this kind of demo project where you're practicing for the first time with FPS and side-scroller, we've got the Corgi engine. You're going to make a Mario 1-1 level. And for the FPS engine, you're going to give me a original Doom level layout with enemies, to the best approximation as the tool set allows. And again, this is all this is all described in the assignment link as well. Once we get around to week 8 or 9, we're going to be handing in our midterm assignment, and then we're going to be going into production. Now, there are several grades for the discussion, but I don't grade the final project until it's handed in at the end. There are a few checkpoints because it's really important for you to know whether or not you're on track. However, I'm not going to, give you a grade if you're a bad grade in the middle of the development cycle, because I realize that sometimes, sometimes it doesn't click, or sometimes it just doesn't come together until the last moment, and you just got to keep working at it. So there's a couple stages to that in my other assignment descriptions that you'll be able to see. So we've got the break. Afterwards, we have week 14 and 15. If you notice in Husky CT, there's only about 13 modules. That's because there doesn't seem to be a reason to have any more than that. After the kind of break, we're just in development. We're working on our project. We're trying to polish it, make it look as great as it can, play as great as it can. And I didn't want to overwhelm you with other new things to add on. That's kind of the development time for you. All your homework is going to be handed in through Google. There's a class Google Drive link right there. You should be added. If you are not, email me or text me in Microsoft Teams. Grading, it's really hard to grade you after the fact, so discussions need to be on time. Your assignments need to be on time, especially for like your pitch, that kind of thing. And as far as your pitch goes specifically, you can work in groups after you do the pitch. So everyone does their own pitch, and then you can kind of group up together afterwards. It's up to you. This is an online course. There are definitely tools that allow game developers to work collaboratively online. However, I do understand that it is a bit difficult, so it's not required, and something that is a little bit more required when we're all together in person. Course participation is 20%, assignments are 40%, and the final project is 40%. So, that is the breakdown of the grades. I think everyone knows how A, B, C's, and D's work. Just so you know, also, there is we use your projects for marketing purposes in the department. If you have a problem with that, just let us know. Your work being advertised as well is a good boon for you. So, you can think about that, but no pressure either way. For participation, you really need to be working on our discussions and giving feedback to others. Those are really important, and giving quality feedback, which you can see in the How to Critique video. Also, as a notice, your work can be public facing if you have it on GitHub or whatever. That's just part of game development, and that's normal. However, if you really don't want that, you can always use a pseudonym, or you can talk to me privately and we can make other arrangements. It's definitely something that the class will all be playing, and then also opportunities for others to be playing. For weekly time commitments, there's about 10 hours a week. That's standard for each class. That is 3 credits for a semester. You need to authenticate and verify through Husky CT. There's also student responsibilities and resources. These are the things that you need to follow, of course. Academic code, academic integrity. You can't cheat, although it's very hard to do so. But in this class specifically, however, there is plagiarism, which is copying other people's work and claiming it as your own. That includes using music files that are not yours to use. I give you a lot of free resources that have songs that you can pull, and that are definitely open commons or Creative Commons. So there's no need to be using copywritten material in your work. And do not deviate from the approved free places. You can always ask me if something is legit, but there's just just because it says it's free, royalty-free music, but it's on a weird account on YouTube, that doesn't mean that it's actually royalty-free, okay? Students with disabilities, please work through the disabilities office. However, I'm really happy to do whatever I need to do to make sure that you're able to learn. So if you need me to go over things, or if you need some extra time, we can always meet. I can also, close caption videos or whatever it is that you need to enable you to do well in this class and make a really cool game at the end of it. For technical help with Microsoft Teams, or how does all this stuff work, anything but Unity, of course, anything that the university supports, please contact the university ITS team, which has it has a help center. There's a lot of people there. There's a chat bar, and that kind of thing. So if your mouse isn't working or that kind of thing, please call them, troubleshoot, make sure you get that working. Office hours, I am going to be in my office in Bishop 120 for my office hours. So I will assume that you are going to be there in person. However, I am also definitely open to people who are, still, online or in a different campus. So if it is going to be online, please indicate that. And to get office hours, go to nexus.uconn.edu, and you can log in with your NetID and password, and you can register for undergraduate, or if you're a graduate, the graduate hours, and just put in the description what's going on, and if you're going to be remote or not, and we'll meet on Microsoft Teams. Also, as a notice, COVID in-person policy, we expect that you're going to use a mask, and that's just a requirement. So please do so. And if we're going to be like meeting in person, that kind of thing, and that's probably the only time it's going to happen for this class. For a reminder, if you were online, I can't talk to your parents or the people around you. So if you want them engaged in a conversation, I will email or I will ask you to confirm that via email or whatever, some sort of a written medium to my email. So Microsoft Teams is also, I think, acceptable. However, if you want me to be the bad guy because your parents are butting in on your conversations and or on your education, I can be the one to tell them to go take a hike, okay? Is making sure that you're able to learn and make good games. Plagiarism and borrowing, as I mentioned, don't borrow music that's not yours. Don't take code that isn't yours and or claim it as your own. Don't take art that isn't yours unless it's open source. All of these things you can definitely use, but you have to make sure that you have a detailed list of where you're getting it from. This is a very normal thing if you're going to be actually making games. And it's very important because otherwise you can be actually sued. Not that that would happen in this case, but like if you're working at a game company, we use open source assets that, all the time. The Wilhelm scream has been, in everything. So webcam usage as well. Please have your webcam on when we're chatting. It's just really valuable for me to be able to discuss things with you. I use my hands a lot, and I can read a little bit more as to whether or not a student is understanding things or not. So please do so. I'm not gonna judge you for anything that's going on in the background. I have seen a lot, so don't worry about it. It's just something that will help us communicate. Email me any questions you've got, kenneth.thompson@uconn.edu, or you can get at me on Microsoft Teams in the chat channel, and I will see you virtually in class.